let me first ask Sanjay Jha. Sanjay Jha, why the rush for the government to go ahead and make these changes in the RTI? As Aruna Roy and activists like Harsh Mandar had said in their letter to the PM, why not consult social activists on this first before making these kind of very significant changes to a very important act?
Nidhi, I will not speculate as to what is going to happen in the future. I mean, that's something that I don't have access to. But what I can definitely tell you is that the RTI Act has been introduced by our government. So in terms of intent towards transparency and accountability, I don't think there can be any dispute. We completely support that. The issue as far as bringing political parties under the RTI is something on which we have debated earlier. And there are 2 points that I would like to mention. Number one is correctly said that the public authority definition requires a greater scrutiny. I think his interpretation has really been, I think, taken to one other extreme. Substantial use of funding or getting access to certain airtime for Doordarshan or land, etc. By that definition, I can tell you that practically several educational institutions, NGOs, even corporates will probably qualify under the definition. So you're going to open up a massive, a legal problem there in terms of its entire interpretation. The second point is you already have a very responsible body which has been doing an excellent job in terms of the Election Commission. And in terms of whether it's about donations to political parties, especially by large corporates, well, that is got to be disclosed to the Election Commission. Any corporate that makes a donation has to make a disclosure in its balance sheets, in its profit and loss statements. Anything that happens is seen in the public domain. Now, as far as the smaller donations is concerned, where I think a lot of people speculate that political parties can amass a lot of cash money which can be unaccounted for, I think it will be best for those parties who really face that problem at a real, genuine level, at the ground level. Assimilating money from people with 100, 200 rupee contributions is really a gigantic task. And I think that is something that we cannot ignore. So it's not about not wanting to be transparent.
You're saying you're transparent enough.
Recognizing the practical difficulties of the whole
Okay, is that Mr. Prashant Bhushan, is it just practical difficulties that political parties cite? They also say, as Sanjay Jha has been saying today, that we are already accountable to the Election Commission. So why do we need to now come under a Right to Information Act? Mr. Bhushan.
Yeah, firstly, giving their accounts to the Election Commission is not the same thing as making them public. Many of these political parties or corporations, etc., are happy to disclose some information to some authorities without making them public, because they know that these authorities don't hold them accountable. In fact, the Election Commission has no power to take any action against any defaulting party which does not supply information about their accounts or does not supply correct information about their accounts, because unfortunately the Supreme Court has said that the Election Commission has no power to deregister political parties. The only thing left is transparency to the people, so that people can see as to where their funds are coming from, where they are being spent, whether they are coming from those corporations in whose benefit these political parties are taking decisions, making policies, making laws, etc., whether these parties are following their own party constitutions on the basis of which they got registration as political parties with the Election Commission. When political parties are vying for power, when they are in the business of forming governments, being in parliament to make laws for this country, etc., why do they think that they do not need to be transparent? Why do they think that they are not public authorities? The Election Commission has rightly, the Central Information Commission has rightly held that they are public authorities because they are funded by substantially funded by the government, as well as because they are exercising public functions akin to public authorities.
I'm going to take that to the BJP, Sambit Patra. So what is then a public authority if political parties are not?
Look, Nidhi, if a public authority issue, which is the center to this whole debate, is to be taken into view, I believe BJP would be insulted in the sense that we have been opposing tooth and nail to the policies and to the humongous scams that the Congress has exposed, and then suddenly you come up and call that BJP is a government organization. That would not that amount to an insult to a party which has always been taking the Congress towards a cornering the Congress on this issue? And secondly, and most importantly, my able friend Sanjay began with a pat on his back and saying that RTI was brought by Congress, and so Congress probably has nothing to do with transparency and accountability. But let me say, Sanjay, that look, the whole issue of transparency, accountability in RTI today has occupied the center stage of debate only because of the fact that Congress has produced such humongous scams on the country that people have...
One second, this is not about the UPA government
I
scams. I think we're
digressing
digressing
No,
here.
digressing, in fact,
No, let us ask about the accountability of political parties
Yes.
and transparency of political parties across the board, whether it's Congress, BJP, left, whoever.
Nidhi, as far as BJP is concerned, we are for transparency and we absolutely stand with accountability. I would like to begin by saying that it is one of the first governments of BJP. We are the party whose first government fell for just a single vote. That itself shows that we've never been
Why
into
are you opposed to the coming under the RTI?
No, not at all. We're not opposed to it. We are for transparency. We are for accountability.
Why not
with
the
certain
RTI?
caveats. But with certain caveats, you cannot have you cannot have RTIs for all the tribals of the political party, in the sense that you cannot demand the minutes of the meeting in the parliamentary committee in the RTI. By that standard, in fact, we have to employ huge number of employees just to attend to such kind of needs.